Hello, I'm Bethany from Bethany Wellness. Join me for part 1 of this Reflect and Renew yoga class. Hello everyone, I'm so glad you could join me today for this part 1 of Reflect and Renew. This will be a 4-part series that we're doing here in January as we welcome a new year. So I would like you to gather some items for this class because we're going to just have a lot of reflection and renewal. First, 2 pillows. I just grabbed these from my bed, so just some standard size pillows, and 2 blankets, maybe towels or blankets. And then you may wish to have even more blankets. It just depends on how much support you like as you do your restorative yoga class today. And then a journal. So part of our reflection will be journaling today. So I'll give you a minute here to gather those items and then we will begin. So let's have the pillows on your mat. And just place them at kind of the top of your mat on 2 pillows stacked. And you'll want to have perhaps one more blanket or towel for support. And you can have your other blanket or goodies nearby just in case. Let's begin to settle in here. So just sit all the way up towards your pillows so that your low back and your hips are connecting to the pillows, and then begin to lay down onto your pillows. And here's where you can adjust your support for your head. And just begin to wiggle a little bit, settle in, see what's comfortable. And let the arms rest down with palms up. You can just keep your gaze up. You can close your eyes. And you may wish here to just notice the arms. If there's too much of a strain on your shoulders or on your chest, you can place blankets underneath your forearms, just bringing the arms up a little bit from the ground. And just begin to take some breaths. Sometimes there's a little bit of wiggling at the beginning as we settle into the pose. Today's practice is all about reflecting and renewing. So we practice a restorative yoga class where we spend a lot of time in these poses. And there's just a few poses that we're practicing. So we're not going through a number of poses, just a few. And we're spending extra time there. And just allowing the pose to clear our mind, and to allow us to settle into stillness, and to allow some things to be revealed and come to the surface as we clear our mind and be open to just receiving anything that comes to your heart, comes to your mind. And so as we welcome a new year, as we're in January 2021, let's begin by reflecting on last year, on 2020. And no doubt for most of us, for the majority of us, there was a lot of bumps in 2020. It was a turbulent year for a lot of us. So let's just embrace that and review it and reflect on it as we scan through our minds. And I want you to think of beginning in January of 2020. What did that look like for you? Were you approaching the new year with excitement, with anticipation, with new adventures or new goals you were pursuing? So just think for you in January of 2020, what did that look like? Personally for you in your life, maybe in your community. And then also let's take it globally. What did January of 2020 look like globally? We can think about, obviously, that's when the news of the pandemic was becoming more well known, thinking about in China, the rise of the cases in China. And then moving into February and March, what might have been going on for you personally, locally, and globally. Obviously, looking at globally, the pandemic numbers were starting to climb even more, and we saw more spread throughout other nations, the European countries. And seeing, of course, more news coverage, and then maybe also noticing locally the pandemic numbers in your community. And then if you had kids in school or grandkids that you know, that they were in a school year that started one way and might have began to shift around March. Some of us might have had remote learning where the kids were suddenly not in school and they were asked to be remotely learning. Or some of us might have had a spring break in March. If you live in the Northern Hemisphere, a lot of spring breaks occur in March and April. And then moving in April, May, June. So we're starting into a new season usually around then. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere, looking at the spring weather, feeling the changes in the season. What was going on for you personally, locally, and globally. And then coming into June, July, and August, that's if you're Northern Hemisphere again, would have been summer months where kids are on summer break, where many of us might take time off of work to take some personal time or some vacation time. A lot of us had closures in our communities where, restaurants were closed or gyms were closed or just different things were happening with our local businesses. Pandemic numbers continuing to shift. And then if you're in any of the American states, there was a lot of racial tension and privilege and things that were surfacing with just a lot of hurt. So thinking of that on our global or national level. And then coming into a new season of September, October, November, a shift in a season again, looking into fall weather if you're up north. A start of a new school year if you had kids or grandkids around. And then in America, looking at a political change as the election year was upon us. And just scanning and remembering September, October, November. For you personally, in your community, and globally. And then coming into the last month of the year, December of 2021, as we're heading into some holiday time for many of us that might celebrate the holidays in December. What did that look like for you personally, in your community, and then globally? What was going on globally? Thinking about that, the COVID-19 pandemic, of course, that is the sort of underlying turbulence of our year and how much change that brought. And then taking some full breaths here, settling into the pose and allowing your mind to be clear and allowing anything to surface, some final thoughts as you reflect on the year 2020. Good. And then slowly begin to wiggle your fingers and toes. Maybe walk your feet up towards your sits bones so you can bend your knees. And then roll to a side as you slowly help yourself come to a seated position. And take your time as we are in these poses for several minutes. It takes maybe just a slower time to rise up from that position. And then find your journal here. Let's reflect on our year of 2020. So just jotting down real quick, first thing that comes to mind, not too cerebral, try not to overthink it, just let whatever surface from having some of that stillness in that pose. So the first question, our year in review as we reflect on 2020, what went well for you? So first question, what went well for you in the year 2020? Just first one or two things that come to mind. And then second question, what was hard for you? What was difficult or challenging in the year 2020? Some of us might have more than one or two things to write here as it's just such a historical time for us. And then third question, what are your intentions for 2021? How will you approach 2021? So your intentions and how you will approach it. So what went well, what was challenging or difficult, and what are your intentions? And then you can come back to this later. You don't have to have it all right now, but I just like to see if there's anything that just quickly comes to mind that you can jot down. All right, so let's put the journal into our next pose. Leave your pillows as they are. Come to lying on your left side and let your left side body and your left hip snuggle up towards the pillows. And then straddle the pillows with your hands. So your right hand comes to the right side of the back, and then your left hand comes to the left side. And then just begin to lay down into the pose, resting your left ear down. And see where you can be soft, see where you can find more support. I can already tell I need a blanket in between my knees. Just settle in here. It's comfortable first, and then try to settle in without the wiggles. Try to be still. And ideally you would have your chest mostly down on the pillows so that you're in a slight twist. And then the topic we're going to think about today in each pose is personal health. So in this pose, I want you to think about your health, beginning with your physical health. So looking at last year, in the year of 2020, how was your physical health? And you can think of physical health in a lot of different categories. So maybe looking at your sleep patterns. How were your sleep patterns in 2020? Looking at your physical exercise. How was your exercise patterns? Maybe think about your nutrition, the food, the diet, the things that you fueled yourself with in 2020. Just kind of scanning, thinking through your physical health last year. And feel free to close your eyes here as you settle in and just let your mind clear and let whatever surfaces come, with whatever comes to the surface, let it be there without judgment. Just allow your breath to draw you in here, drawing you into stillness, helping your body to sink down into the pose, avoiding the temptation to move or wiggle. Just be still. Take a few more full breaths. And then take your time as you slowly rise up, pressing through the palms. Take a few more breaths. And then find your journal. Looking at the category of your physical health last year, what went well for you in your physical health? Whether it's looking at, like I said, your exercise, your nutrition, your sleep patterns, your self-care perhaps. And then what was hard? What was a challenge or difficult for you in your physical health? And then what is your intention for 2021 for your physical health as you come into a new year? What are your intentions for this year for your physical health? Good. And then switching sides, you can leave your pillows where they are. And we're just going to connect the right side, so our right hip, to the pillows, and then straddle the pillows with your palms, and then lay your right ear to rest down. And I'm going to actually switch because it feels kind of awkward to just face my back to you the whole time. So you stay where you're at, but I'm going to switch. So just laying your right side down, right ear rests with your palms on each side of the pillows. Find any support that you need to be comfortable. Feel free to close your eyes as you connect to the pose. Connect to some nice full breaths. Then I want you to think about, on this side, another category of your health, which is mental and emotional health. So looking back last year, how was your mental and emotional health? Just scan the whole year. Were there moments of anxiety? Were there moments of depression, sadness, worry? Were there moments of anger? Perhaps there was moments of feeling a little joyful or feeling grateful, feeling like you can handle all the changes. Or maybe there was moments of just overwhelm, feeling burdened. So just think about scanning your mental and emotional health. Think about maybe some things you did to care for your mental and emotional health. And just rest in here into this pose, letting the pose reveal anything that comes to your mind and to your heart as you scan your mental and emotional health from last year. And just allow your breath to help draw you into the present moment, allowing the clear and the stillness to settle into your mind, your body, your spirit. Just soaking up the feeling of being restored, renewed. And take a few more nice full breaths. And begin to slowly press through your palms, helping yourself to rise up to a comfortable seated position. Find your journal again. Take a few breaths here. Sometimes I get a little sleepy, kind of a foggy head after some of these nice long holds. So just take a few breaths. And then answer the questions, thinking about your mental and emotional health. What went well for you last year in 2020? What was challenging? What was difficult? Just first things that come to mind. Once again, trying to avoid getting too much into the cerebral thought. Just what's surfacing right now after holding that pose for a while. And then what are your intentions? So question 3, intentions for your mental health in this year, 2021. Good. And you can always revisit this later. We don't have to have all the answers right now, but just a good things to jot down real quick. All right. So one more actually 2 more poses, not 1 more, 2 more poses. So we don't need our props too much for this. You may choose to have the blankets nearby. And just come to lying on your back and hug your knees in. You can wrap your arms around your legs, around the shins or behind the thighs. You can point and flex the toes for just a few movements. And then release your feet down. We're going to hold a spinal twist just a little bit longer than we usually do. So bring the arms out. So that's where you may wish to have your towels, is just to have a little more support, or your blankets. Inhale first, then let your legs fall to the left. And if you like a deep twist, keep your feet together. If you like more gentle, you can have your feet farther away. I'm going to choose to place just a little blanket here underneath my left thigh or my left knee. You can choose what support you may wish to have. And then your gaze can be up or to the right, and just take some nice full breaths here. Feel free to close your eyes in any of these poses as we're holding these poses for several minutes. Sometimes it's nice to just settle in, sink down, be in the stillness. And feel free to adjust here. If you need more gentle, move the legs farther away from your torso. Just have them less tucked up and in. Just have them farther away and less bent. And here, the last category to reflect on from last year is your spiritual health. So our topic of the day is health, and we've broken it down into physical health, mental health, and finally spiritual health. So I want you to think about last year. How much did you nurture your spiritual health? Did you feel connected and tuned in to your spirit? Did you feel a sense that things were just going the way they were supposed to, a trust that there's a higher power, a God that has things in control, and while we don't understand it, just trusting that there is a plan, there is a purpose? Or did you connect to any practices like meditation or even yoga, just to connect your mind, your body, your spirit? So just scanning and reflecting on last year with your spiritual health. Inhale, draw the legs to center. Release your legs to the other side. You may wish to use that towel or blanket underneath the right knee as you twist the legs to the right. Connecting to your breath, always connecting to breath with each pose, and then staying connected to your breath as we hold the pose. Be sure to take nice full breaths as we hold this pose, especially the spinal twist, as we help bring circulation to the belly, to the organs. Take a few more breaths. And then slowly draw the knees back to center, hug them in towards your torso. And then you can roll to one side as you help yourself come up to a seated pose. And find your journal once again for our last pondering question here, looking at spiritual health. What went well for you in 2020? So just first thing that comes to mind, or first few things, what went well for your spiritual health in 2020? Second question, what was hard? What was difficult or challenging in your spiritual health in 2020? And then what are your intentions for this year, for 2021? Your intentions for your spiritual health, your approach, how will you approach it? Good. Like I said, you can always look back at some of these later. If nothing's coming to mind, that's all right. And then finally, let's settle into final surrender. So you have all these awesome props. You might as well use them if you feel inclined to do so. So I always like, when I have extra props, to use a headrest during Shavasana. I like to place pillows underneath my knees, and I like to use a blanket. So that's my preference, but just explore what feels good to you as we lock in our practice today, sealing in the benefits of this renewal or restorative practice. Just come to lying down. Rest your hands on your belly, just to feel and connect that belly breath, feeling the belly rise and fall with each breath. And as we did our reflective practice today, no doubt there was some challenges that we noticed. Hopefully you also noticed some things that did go well. So even in the midst of challenges and trials, we can still see that there was growth or new fruit that formed, or learn new things about ourselves. So end your practice today giving thanks for just a few things that you can think of from last year. Giving thanks for anything that surfaces, anything that comes to mind from 2020. Or maybe we're just thankful to be carried through that year, and here we are into a new year. Whatever it is for you, be grateful. And as you settle into your breath, allow each breath to draw you into this Shavasana, sealing in a sense of feeling renewed and restored from this practice today. From this part one of this series, as we grow together into the 4 parts, as we learn and as we journal. Allow all the muscles in your face to relax. Your forehead opens, your eyebrows and eyelids are soft, your nostrils release, and your mouth and jaw neutral. Shoulders sink down as both arms filled with relaxation, moving to your hands, to the tips of your fingers. Your hips and legs release down a little more, feeling the relaxation travel down to your ankles, to your feet, to the tips of your toes. Feeling completely relaxed in your mind, your body, your spirit. Feeling restored and renewed, and feeling at peace. Final surrender, Shavasana. And take a few breaths as you bring awareness back. Wiggle your fingers and toes, bend at the wrists and ankles. And take your time as you slowly roll to your right side and spend a few breaths on your side, using your arm as a pillow perhaps. And then help yourself rise up to a comfortable seated position. Thank you so much. It was my honor to guide you through part 1 of this Reflect and Renew yoga class. I hope you found a few insights or some food for thought for later. We'll end with Namaste. The teacher in me honors the teacher in you. Namaste. Be well.